And I don't know if the acquiring of a two would be worth the money spent, what it would bring back. How did Texas communities stack up? Larger cities, which tend to have the best fire protection, generally are rated a 3 or 4. A few are rated 2, and even fewer have a 1 rating. Small town 2, you can save 8.5%. If you go to a 4, it's going to cost you another 1.7%, 5, 6.8%, 6, 11.9%. And then when you get to 10, if you go to a 10, it's going to go up 67.8%. So, in a nutshell, that is what ISO is. I have got all the information. I've got the breakdown on it, but that would be better served at a 4, 5, 6 hour meeting where we could go through it if we want to look at how we can improve these numbers. Like I said, in fact, there are people that give big money for consultants to come in and help them do this, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. Or a department will take 5 or 6, 10 people and say, you're with ISO until they get finished. So let's get together sometime later on down the road. We'll pull all the numbers out. We'll really go over and we'll look and say, if we want to improve, where do we want to do that at?
When do you think that you would like to have this workshop?
It really doesn't matter to me. It would be just when the calendar looks good where we can get together and we can do it and we can go over it with a fine tooth comb and figure out which way we want to go if we do want to do anything else.
Well, it comes down to see if something we need to pursue.
Anybody got any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Suppose, can you reference that the slide community? Next, we have our Development Services Coordinator report with Mark Boyd. Mr. Boyd.
Evening, Council. In your packets, you'll see my report. We had 8 permits issued, 26 code compliance issues, $8,448.72 in permit fees. The next page, you'll see the breakdown of the inspections and of the permits issued. Probably for the one thing that sticks out there, the outliers at 8,000. That's the NRP project payment. That's why you can see we only issued 8 permits. Average doesn't seem the same. You'll see 22 issued in January and 2,000 in the fees. So that's how I would explain that. Questions?
We have any questions for Mr. Boyd? Is that it, Mr. Boyd?
That's it.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a code committee, yeah, she's.
Are you ready to say? Or do you want to be on this? Where is it? Where is it?
Enforcement committee.
Oh, okay. I don't remember. Yes. All right. Next, we have Code Enforcement Committee update with this thing. Let's see. We had a meeting on March the 18th to discuss various code issues with multifamily properties, our current multifamily properties. Mark Boyd called the meeting because of an issue we had at the Santa Fe Apartments. An elderly gentleman was found living in uninhabitable conditions in one unit of what appeared to be an otherwise vacant building. The health inspector, code enforcement police were brought into the situation. The police department would offer assistance as needed to help code enforcement and development services. The police chief agreed that the unsanitary conditions need to be reported to the code by the responding police officers. The police chief also suggested that code enforcement open a more thorough dialogue with the city prosecutor so that we have the support of the court when these matters are brought to court. And the city administrator suggested that as council members, we appoint the judge and we have access to the prosecutor, and we do need to talk to our prosecutor and let that person know what our intentions are, because the judge doesn't necessarily know if we don't talk to them. So he's encouraging us all to do that, and the judge is a council appointee. we obviously can't influence any particular cases, but just to have a dialogue with the court to let them know, you know, we understand these are our ordinances and we're pretty strong on these. Also, Bobby Garza has been assigned part-time to code. We originally were only using him 8 hours a week, but the police chief said that we could use whatever is necessary to accomplish our city's code enforcement goals. This is very important just because of personnel, lack of personnel. So this meeting, we clarified the direction of code enforcement and really opened up, we think, a productive dialogue with the police chief. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Slade. Does anyone have any questions about the report? We'll move on. Next, we have our consent agenda items. Before you, you have the minutes for the regular meeting for March 24th, 2014, March 2014 check register, financial report for the month of March 2014, and the quarterly investment report for the months of January to March 2014. Council, we can take this as one motion, or if there's anything you'd like to separate, please let me know. We have a motion and a second, and we can open to discussion if you have
Mayor,
any
I'll make a
discussion.
motion to approve in their entirety.
Thank you, Mr. Gilling. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Do you have any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Number 3, City Council may appoint 2 alternates to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. As you know, Council, we have taken over the role of the Board of Adjustments, and I think it's time that we start placing this back into the hands of our citizens. Right now, we have Mr. Hanish, you are serving, and we're going to have to probably reappoint next month. Ms. Lotus, we're going to check into that, so we'll have to reappoint you. And also, I had suggested Joe Rincones and Shanna Halpern. And Ms. Halpern, you're here tonight, thank you. And you're the only one that we did receive the application from tonight, so this is the only one that we'll be able to consider this evening. Councilman, have you all had a chance to look at Ms. Halpern's application?
Mayor, are we looking to go to a Citizens Board of Adjustment meeting?
Yes, we are. So it's what we discussed, that we need to fill all the alternate spots before we can turn it back over. That's what I was told.
So we're not turning it over to
Not
council,
turning it
will still
over.
be the Board of Adjustment
Yes, sir.
until you have a full alternate list?
Yes, sir. We're trying to get all these seats filled, and then we'll turn it over to them. Yes. Ms. Halpern, since you're here, is there anything that you would like to share with us? You don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you have the floor if you would like it.
It's just Halpern, not Halpern.
Oh, Halpern, I'm sorry. Any comments? All right, thank you. I'm sorry. Council, do we have any action?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Slade. Any discussion?
Just have a comment, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think we're very fortunate to have people of this caliber come forward and volunteer for service in the community. In most cases, we don't do it to be thanked. In most cases, it ends up being sometimes a thankless job.
Yes.
Because you make decisions that are not popular with people, and it's wonderful to see candidates come forward and willing to step into the fray.
That's correct. I agree. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Shannon, I'm very impressed with your qualifications, quite impressive. This is a great place to start because I really don't believe council people should be up here forever, so getting fresh citizens involved like yourself it gives me an incredible hope for the city, and I deeply appreciate you coming forward. One more thing, I wasn't aware we were trying to fill positions. There might be some other citizens we can bring forward, but I didn't know that we were looking to do that.
I think we've discussed it, but it was probably just casual discussion at the meeting. But yes, I am looking for the people. Okay. So we do have a motion and a second. So all in favor to approve Shannon Halpern to the Board of Adjustments alternate position, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again. We'll be in touch. Number 4, on the business items, consideration and action to approve changes to the Beryl Street project and assess issues at St. Gregory's. Mr. Rockett, would you please come up?
The improvements that were made out at the church, steps were removed and replaced so that we could get equal risers, and then additional handrails were installed at the steps. That was what was.
This was your suggestion, right? Sandra, that?
That was some of the discussion that was at the council meeting last month, and it was advised that we look into the cost of that would help solve the problem. So that's what was done. I'm not sure if council has any additional discussion that they wish to bring up at this time.
If we do, I'd like to go ahead and do a motion in a second, and then we can open for any discussion. Council, do we have any action?
What would the action be?
To approve the changes, which are, the changes is the $1,500. That was already approved. That's the only thing, is that correct, Ms. Baker?
As the handrails.
Yes, that's the reinstallation of the handrails.
Okay, so that's what we're approving.
I approved them, but that change order, that cost needs to be
Provided.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do you have any discussion?
Yes.
We'll take one time, because according to my memo today, one opportunity, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, getting back to your memo, I understand it, as long as, according to TML, what I understand, and Frank may help me out with this, if you make a comment to one item one time, if you have additional comments to other things that are, you can make additional comments at that time, but one item regarding one item. Roger and Mark and I were out there and we were looking at the property. It is possible to have a walking slope within the city right of way and get that to come up and meet the 10-foot by 30-foot slope that they added to join that. Roger had gotten a hold of Jones for some bids, and of course we don't have it. But the point being is that right now they need some handrails. So until Roger can get that information and bring it back to us, I'll bring it forward later on at a future date to council, and then we can deal with it at that time.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any other comments?
I have a comment.
Yes.
I'm concerned about the involvement of council in the day-to-day operations of our city. If we have a problem with a construction project, that should be handled by Ms. Buckert, her staff, the city engineer. It causes much confusion and misunderstanding, especially with a third party that's involved in the contract, on what their expectations should be on a particular contract. And we have council members who, by the way, have no authority acting alone, in interacting with our city engineer and our staff to solve a problem. This is highly out of line as far as I'm concerned. It should not be done. The only exception I would see is if the city administrator, through the council, asks that the council appoint a committee to work a certain issue, and then come back to council with a recommendation. But we can't go out individually on our own and start exploring the problems in the city and making recommendations, trying to bind the city engineer to a commitment, interfering with the developmental services folks or the staff at all. I think it's time that the staff, when they're directed by someone other than in their chain of command, that they say, you need to see the city administrator.
And that should be the end of the discussion with us council members. We have no authority to direct staff or to guide staff. That's a staff function. We're like a board of directors. We make policy, we make guidance. We do not implement policy and guidance.
Thank you, Mr. Gillian. Any other comments?
Yes, I just want to say I agree with Councilman Gillian. I don't think this should be a council issue at all. This is not our charge. That's why we have a city administrator.
Okay. Ms. Sever, any comment?
No.
Ms. Gregg? Do you have a quick rebuttal?
I have been very active on Borough Street and informing Roger of situations, seeing I do have quite a bit of expertise in construction, and the citizens do contact me. And I do let Mark and I do let Amy know of the situations. I know this lateral line, that was an issue that came up. Roger was on vacation, and that happened on a Wednesday or Thursday. I told Amy and Mark both it was a very simple matter to request a video and get that started. And I was a little amazed that nothing really happened until Roger got back, that the video wasn't requested before then. But the whole point being is that our engineer did a great job. Unfortunately, he cannot be there all the time for things that come up. I noticed issues as far as construction that Jones was doing, notifying Roger, because he cannot be there.
One at a time, please.
No. But I'm so glad that Mr. Gillian has made that point. And I hope that that continues throughout council. I totally agree with you.
Ms. Sever, I'm sorry, Ms. Sever, maybe we can have some policies or something to prevent unnecessary interference with staff. Follow the policies that we
Mayor, did you get 2 comments or rebuttal?
have. You get a rebuttal.
Okay, here's my rebuttal. We have a council relations policy that's been written. It's been in existence for how many years?
Since 06.
06. Read it, abide by it, and we won't have problems interfering with staff.
Thank you. All right, we do have a motion and a second. All in favor to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 5, consideration and action to amend C6 disposal contract. Is Mr. Conti? Mr. Garza and Ms. Becker?
If you recall, a couple of months ago, we entered into a contract with C6 Disposal Systems to be our exclusive waste and recycle collector. Mr. Cantu, or C6, asked for an amendment to make it clear. Well, I think it's clear. There were some residents and commercial businesses that did not believe it was very clear that he was the exclusive recycling garbage contractor for the city. So we've added language to make it clear that he is not only solid waste and recycled materials within the city limits, the exclusive. He does recognize that based on the amendment at the council action when the original contract was, if someone has another construction contractor, that's okay, that because of the business. He did ask that for a reinstatement fee to be included. There was already a reinstatement fee in the original contract. He asked for $35, which is what was in the original contract for residents for reinstatement. That's nothing new. But he did ask for $50 for reinstatement for commercial businesses. And the only other thing that really is clear is that if a business owner has a recycling machine already purchased or leased under contract that's not C6, this exempts them from C6 having to serve them because they are already under a separate contract. The issue was, well, some businesses already had separate contracts or owned their own recycling machine. And so language was included that if they own their own recycling machine or had a separate contract for recycling that was in place prior to this, that C6 would honor that and not force that business to utilize C6 services.
Can they then renew the contract when it expires
Um,
with another company?
The language makes it clear if it's in place. If that contract is a renewal term, then yes. If it's expired, if there's no more renewal terms, the answer is no.
I make the motion to table this till George can come before us. I have some questions for him concerning this.
Are there questions we can answer, or?
I have no idea, you don't know. That's a possibility, but I made a motion to table it till George can come back to it.
Do we have a second on the motion to table? I don't hear a second. Okay. To table, all in favor all in favor to approve, please say aye.
Wait, discussion, I still have discussion items concerning this
All right.
C6.
No. Once you made a motion to table,
It's
it ceases to table the item.
Okay. All in favor to approve, please say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The motion is to table.
Motion to table?
Yes.
Okay, I am.
I'll call for the motion one more time. All in favor to approve the motion to table until next month, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. 3-2. Number 6, consideration and action to schedule date for council meeting in May due to Memorial Day holiday on May 26th.
Excuse me, Mayor. We decided not to table it, so it's still an open item, right?
No, sir, I think the vote was 3-2 table.
Table. Miguel voted to table.
The motion that was on the floor
Was to table.
The
was to
table.
table. I opposed to table.
Me too,
Correct.
but
It
Miguel voted-
passed 3-2. The motion passed 3-2
Oh,
to
there was
table.
3 votes to table?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. First thing that goes in here. Right.
You've got to wait there. We'll worry about that.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Becker, do you want to take this? Or you mean
Yes, ma'am. We have, as you know, changed the council meeting date to the fourth Monday of the month, and that one falls on Memorial Day, the fourth Monday of May. So staff is proposing that council consider the third Monday of May, which is the 19th, the week prior.
Council, do we have action?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. Any discussion? All in favor to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, discussion and recommendations for Pleasant Drive on safety hazard for pedestrians and obstruction of mailboxes. Mr. Hubbard? You're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, as you all know, back in January, I brought up these Pleasant Drive issues. Safety hazard for pedestrians and mailbox obstruction. The Pleasant Drive is a danger zone for children and pedestrians utilizing Rogers Park. I have witnessed traffic not slowing down in the park area. I strongly recommend our police department to patrol this area frequently, especially when parties are taking place. Next. My ideas or recommendations may not be the best, but someone has to come up with something even if it's wrong. If my recommendations or ideas tonight are not pleasing, I want to hear yours, anybody's, audience and council. If you're going to criticize my recommendations, don't. I don't want to hear criticism, I want to hear solutions. I recommend updating Chapter 74, parking schedule ordinance, and replacing current street signs, park street signs. We have been debating this issue since January. 4 months is ample time to correct an issue such as this. Thanks. I recommend replacing the current signs with this one, which has a speed limit. I found this sign at www.alltrafficsigns.com. The SKU number on this one is K6652.000. ASPX. This is fluorescent yellow, and it's a 12 by 18 inch with an outdoor life of 10 years. You can apply Smart Shield laminate to protect against vandalism and graffiti for $8.88 each sign. A set of 4 signs cost is $95.80 plus the $35.48 for the Smart Shield laminate, if desired, for a total cost of $131.28. These signs are a lot cheaper than the undesirable speed bumps at $5,000 a piece. Next. There has been several complaints from residents in the past on speeding vehicles and lack of police patrolling in our residential areas. When are we going to take appropriate action to correct this? After someone gets hurt or killed? For a short time period, police were patrolling Rogers Park frequently and actually walked around the park. Could it be that due to lack of follow-up by supervisors, this is not happening today? Or does anyone know the reason for this not happening today? Seven of our residents on Pleasant Drive may not be receiving the mail due to people blocking the mailbox. If these residents take delivery of meds, which most of them do, they may not receive them on time. Is it fair for residents, especially elderly residents, to be inconvenienced by people who most likely are not Balcones Heights residents having a good time at the Rogers Park? It is common knowledge not to block mailboxes, but a lot of people don't know or don't care. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this problem. Saturday, March 29, 2014, party at Rogers Park. This is one example of a typical day people having a party at the park. Obstructed mailboxes here are 212, 213, and 214 Pleasant. That's kind of a poor picture. You can't really see them, but if you see that red car right above the rooftop, there's a little white speck. That's a mailbox for 214. And there's a car parked right in front of it. And then the 212, I'm sorry. And then there's a small pickup right there blocking that, well, not actually blocking it, but it's too close. Not enough room for the mailman to stop by in that mailbox, and that's 213 Pleasant. Right across the street, directly right across the street, that's 214 Pleasant, and that you can see that mailbox right above that hood on that SUV there. Mail was delivered that day around 3:30 p.m. and these vehicles were blocking these mailboxes. So if any of these residents were waiting for meds or other important mail, it wasn't received that day. The mailman drove past these mailboxes and no mail delivered. This is another photo taken by my neighbor. Same day, same party. Obstructed mailboxes here are 215 and 216 Pleasant. My neighbor was outside waiting for the mailman to collect his mail. He knew the mailman was not going to stop at his mailbox because it was being obstructed. When I suggested, next, when I suggested no parking zones on Pleasant back in January, I heard comments such as we can't go painting red curves all over the city, and we can't tell people where not to park because these are public streets. Well, we don't have to paint red curves all over the city. We are talking about 7 mailboxes to protect on Pleasant Drive. Next. As far as we can't tell people where to and where not to park because these are public streets, why do we have all these no parking zones in our city? Why haven't there been any request to change this so that anyone can park anywhere they desire on these public streets? Don't we have the right as a municipality to make laws and regulations to help and protect our citizens? I took a quick look at Chapter 74, parking schedules, Schedule 1, prohibited parking. It seems like we have prohibited parking areas which are not pertinent to any things such as residential mailboxes, water hydrants, etc. Here is some examples of which I'm talking about. Next. Siesta Lane. No parking from Fredericksburg Road to Gentleman. This is a photo I took from Fredericksburg heading towards Gentleman. There isn't any pertinent object to protect from obstruction other than driveway approaches. This is a public street. Being that we don't have the right to tell people where to park, why do we have an ordinance prohibiting parking? Should this ordinance be changed to allow parking